A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
And a half-second lead. Oh, with the sizzling car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive, massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
G'day everyone, welcome to the stream. This is round 5 of the AMS Oz Super 2 series, coming to you from Barbagallo Raceway. That there is not a picture of Barbagallo Raceway, that is indeed a picture of the Adelaide Street Circuit, and that is because that is what was being broadcast last night over on the Short Shift podcast channel. So this is one of the many nuances of having to do multiple broadcasts, is that you have to get a rough idea of where all your files live. And as you can see there, that is now a picture of Barbagallo Raceway. So glad we got that sorted. This is the second of three commentaries in the space of 5 days for myself, actually having come off the back of a weekend performance at Phillip Island. TCAC fill-in last night, Super 2 tonight, and we've got GT3 from Circuit of the Americas on Sunday night, which will also be here on this channel, brought to you also via Apex Rear Wing. And we get set for a nice big endurance test tonight, a single race over 176 k's around this 7-corner circuit. As always, my name is Nether. I'm usually joined by Hans Brunswick, but he's just getting himself sorted at the moment, running a little bit behind schedule, so he won't be too far away from getting behind the mic. He's saying that he's also as slow as he's driving. He's just actually here opposite me like he normally is for commentary at the moment, which is the main reason why he decides to talk about racing. But very quickly, what we will do before we go into the session for the moment is have a very quick look at the driver points situation. So you can see here, Phil Boak's currently on top in the standings. Cam Rutledge is outright second. And then there's a little bit of a decent gap between Boak and Rutledge at the moment. Brendan Ross did lead the championship for a little bit, but did not finish at the previous round. Put pay dirt to his championship point standings. He didn't acquire any further points. Brenton Foley, by virtue of having won and a race recently and also coming second in the race last time out at Phillip Island, has moved up the standings and got a nice cluster of points there. There's a nice little gaggle of cars there between 5th, 6th and to a degree 7th as well. And then you've got Steve Burko and Matt Williams and Ricky Slick. They're on equal points. And then rounding a top 10 is Billy Dougal-Salonga for HDS, and a couple of drivers also knocking on the door of a top 10 there, Cracker and Dwayne Davies. Now what we'll do is we'll come back to this screen and the race information a little bit later on, because qualifying is not too far away from going live, and that's where we will pick up the action. And we're just moving over to the racing right now, and as you can see, the man at the top of the standings as we speak, just as the last few drivers are finishing their flying laps, is JP Courier with a 54.979, so just under the 55-second barrier. And that's going to be very important tonight because it's a 73 lap race, which we'll cover off in after the qualifying session is over, and it's a sub 1 minute lap time around here, so the laps will go quickly, but it will still be a very, very interesting race. Now we get set for a 15-minute session, now with 2 flying laps, an out lap, 2 flying laps and an in lap, and all about picking your time as to when you go out on this circuit. Now we're just trying to cycle through and find our first runner. And it is indeed the man who topped practice, JP Courier, and we've had a really, really good turnout for Super 2 this week as well. We've got 19 drivers. Unfortunately, it looks like Steve Burko still having a few dilemmas trying to get into the server. His teammate for this weekend, Zach, of this race weekend, is in the server, which is good to see. Hopefully, Steve will be able to get himself sorted and in. A couple of HDV mismatch errors. And now they're all starting to line up at the pit lane. So it's Courier, followed by his new teammate Jinx. And then a little bit further behind that would be Josh Ben. Looks like he's taking to the circuit as well for his first few flying laps. Now this is only a 2.4 kilometre circuit, only 7 corners, very, very tight. There's only one line through some of these turns, namely where the cars are now. So there's turn 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 5 complex, and then you start to really feel the undulation that this circuit has. So you're climbing up through 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, plunge down into the bowl at 6, back up and over the rise, and then really plunge down hard into turn 7 in probably what's one of the hardest braking zones on this circuit. And as I said there, you've only got really 2 flying laps, so picking the ideal time to go out is crucial. And we'll stay with our fastest man in practice, JP Courier. There's looks like that's Brownie just coming out onto the circuit there, and does the right thing, leaves some gap for the faster car to come out onto the circuit. Up through turn 2, through turn 3, now left through turn 4. Still turning. Pick the right opportunity to get on the power through turn 5 and pick your right line. Up and over the rise, and now down into the right hander, affectionately known as the bowl, or turn 6. Nice line there. Then it starts to climb again, up, and sort of just crests and then flattens out right about now, and then down into the braking zone for turns number 7. A couple of quick brake applications in quick succession. The bowl's probably a moderate braking zone, relatively hard braking zone for turn 7, and a relatively hard braking zone for turn 8. First shot across the bows is a 55.4 for JP Courier. Teammate is about 7/10 behind. They keep going. Josh Ben splits the pair of them now. Goes up into provisional P2. If you look out to see who else is currently out there on the circuit, there's a number of drivers starting their flying laps, and it looks like Hans Brunswick has managed to get himself sorted, and he's showing me the thumbs up here, so good evening to you, Hans.
Hello, Nedley. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well, and at least your voice sounds a hell of a lot better than what it was a couple of days ago.
Yeah, well, just give it a bit of a tune-up, and we're off and running tonight, aren't we? At Barbagallo Raceway in Perth, not Adelaide. We've made the 5-hour trek from Adelaide to Perth.
5 hours?
And we've drove. 5 hours. Yeah, from the obviously the screen in the thing, the opening screen. But once that was rectified and we got ourselves to the right airport, then we drove down Wanneroo Road to get to Wanneroo, our Wanneroo Raceway, Barbagallo Raceway, named after Alf Barbagallo, the car dealers down there, and very they support the WA Sporting Car Club, so owners of the circuit. As we look at Josh Ben in the PBF Race Engineering Commodore.
Currently P2 at the moment on the circuit, and he's had his 2 flying laps, so he is done. So too is Jinx, so too is Turmo. Turmo pops up into P2 and only 0.4 of a second away from Courier, so displaces Josh Ben. Good run from Turmo, and Brownie's been disqualified, which means he's done more laps than he's either A, done more laps than what he should have, but he hasn't actually set a lap, so something's probably gone a bit of a miss there for Brownie.
Maybe a track cut too many times or something like that. But Turmo in the Castrol Turmo Racing 715 Altima, he's doing really good. That's actually a pretty respectable time up there. So keen to see if he can pull off some of the antics that he pulled off at Phillip Island. You know, given the top 3 a real shake.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of giving the top 3 a real shake, we don't expect this man here to give the top 3 a real shake, but it's good to see him back. He has had some computer issues, and he's going very slowly there, so he probably doesn't realise that he really needs to get on it and get going, because this is his last flying lap. He's currently, or provisionally, 6th, but quite some considerable margin off what is the pole time by 4.3 seconds. He's finding time to improve on his lap time, which is good to see, but he's not going to really trouble the timesheets too much here, and this is probably really an evaluation session for him, given he's got a new computer and new parts underneath him. Currently P6, we've got 7 people that have set the time. Let's even pick up anybody else who's out there on track at the moment. Now, here's a man who hasn't raced for a couple of weeks. This is Dwayne Davies, or DD, and he's actually up on the provisional pole time at the moment by 0.05 of a second, coming into turn number 7 right now, using all the road and some, and coming back across the curb, which we know is legal in the supercars. Goes P2, so that little excursion across the exit has probably cost him a little bit of time there. He's still got one more lap, but it's good provisional shot across the bows. Not that much slower than JP Courier at all.
Well, the car was sliding a little bit into turn 4, which was pretty impressive, and he managed to catch it before it got too out of hand. But he looked like he was about to go into the old pit lane on the main straight. He drops it off on the little concrete berm there, and then down into Cold Corner. Famous corner. We've seen many driver go off here. We've also seen Brad Jones go over a number of times in the 2005 season. One of those times was at Cold Corner.
That was the Aussie Mail car, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, it was either the Aussie Mail car or the BOC car. I'm tending to lean towards the BOC car because it was 2005. But
true.
yeah, so the next round at Eastern Creek, because he went over at Pukekohe, he went over at Barbagallo, and then the next round at Eastern Creek. And speaking of Dwayne Davies, he's gone top 55.39. It's basically on the cusp of a 55.4. We can round it up to a 55.4, so that's a really impressive time.
Yeah, there's not much in that at all. As Stairs would say, there's a bee's dick in that, and 0.034 of 1 second. It's literally like, you can see I'm saying it's this much, but I
can visualise it. You're holding about a gap between your two index fingers about a couple of inches across.
Yeah, that's literally how close it is.
5 centimetres in the metric system.
Well, Billy Dougal Salonga was the man that we just showed you on the points graph who was just on the edge of the top 10. He was the last man in the top 10, actually. He's half a second down on the pole sitter's time at the moment. It's good enough for provisionally 4th place ahead of Josh Ben. Actually being very respectful of the track limits there. Staying well within the line, not using too much curb at all, and goes P6, so losing a little bit by being, I guess, being a gentleman racer and staying on the correct side of the curbs.
It's understeer, I reckon. Like, it's not understeering terribly, but you can't really get to the apex. He's not really on that white line. Oh, he slides a little bit, just a bit of a lock brake. See, this is what I'm saying. So he can't really get it back to the corner, back to the edge quite as good, but it seems to be helping him at the moment, because right now he's gone 2 tenths up on his PB and he's about 1.5 tenths up on Dwayne Davies.
Very aggressive turn in there for turn 4 as well, on the change of direction, and a little puff of smoke that went with it as well. So going for I wouldn't say conservative lap, it was a good lap time for
he's
lap
up
1.
again, look at that.
Oh, geez, it is too. Well, I mean, he's fractionally up on the pole time. Now, Zach's been disqualified. That's another one.
No, he's been the lap probably because he's locked up and he's just gone off. It didn't steer ahead, so that's the understeer issue. It was not that bad at turn 4, actually. He did quite well.
Good.
But he's up on his PB, but he's about 1/10 of a second away. And that puts him in a 3rd place provisionally behind JP Courier and Dwayne Davies. We've got about 7 minutes, just under 7 minutes, 6 minutes 50 in this session remaining. Nether, what do you think? You reckon there's going to be someone coming out of the bag?
I think there probably will be. We're still sitting the likes of the PBF cars in the lane.
Here we go.
Yeah, this is Mitchell Hathaway. This is the teammate to the man we were just watching, Billy Dougal Salonga. So he's looking mighty handy at the moment. The feature race winner in Adelaide, and he goes P3. So Dwayne Davies and JP Courier have managed to find something just in that last little part of the lap, because being such a short lap, the final sector is very, very short indeed. You basically come out of the bowl at turn 6, and halfway up that straight on the run to turn 7 is where the sector 2 timing split is, and then you've only got really one corner, and that's crucially the corner. But look at this. Nearly 0.3 of a second up on the pole time, so this could potentially be a venture into... and Foley, well, we just said a venture into the sub 54.
Foley's creamed
Foley's
at the
absolutely
moment.
creamed it. Foley's gone a 55.024 by our timing screens. Mitchell Hathaway not far away at all. If he can get this turn right, he's going to have a really good run. There's nothing in this, and that's not a bad exit. But the question is he going to be close or close enough? No, not quite close enough. Foley had a much, much better final sector. Look at that final sector from Foley. It was a 16.3. And Mitchell Hathaway, when we're just waiting for the timing screen to update, he was probably about 1/10.5 slower, but still good enough to move up into P4. Sorry, 2 now. Sorry, 2.
No, sorry, mate. The Dwayne Davies and JP Courier and Billy Dougal Salonga, they're separated by like 1/10 of a second, which is pretty impressive. It's about 0.13.
Foley's had a bit of a moment there.
It.
Let's see if we can pick up what happened to him, because...
flying lap, so he's binned it.
Yeah, he's pushing a bit too hard, I think, here, Foley. He pretty much did the business on the first lap. What did he do on the second flying lap? Down into turn 7. Yeah, big lock up. and rotated the car.
So he was trying to get it back onto the racing line and try and avoid that curb. But what happened is that, a bit too much throttle and a bit too much steering lock, and off you go. Around she went, and that's all she wrote.
Well, let's see what we've got else. We've got Ricky Slick and Brendan Ross. They're the only two out there on track. Phil Boak's running a new livery this week, so he's yet to
Oh,
set
what a
some times.
fantastic livery. Look at that. 015. Actually, that's the 99 livery. So that car was not 015. It was actually number 1 or to number 2, but we'll take it. The 98 and the 99 cars look quite similar, but nice to see the old comic book style font numbers on the door.
Yeah,
And the nice retro look of the red, white, and blue of HRT.
in actual fact, it's the Lowndes car from 1999, that livery, just obviously with the 015 on the door. A couple of other new liveries this week. Mitch Hathaway's got a new livery. JP is obviously
Well, he
running two
gets
cars
it
there.
sliding a little bit. Sorry to cut you off, but he was sliding out of a cold corner, so he's warming up the tyres quite good.
Yeah, what we're going to do is have a bit of a look at where Ricky Slick and the other man, Brendan Ross, are, because they're the next men on track looking to set time. So we've just said we've got 19 drivers in the server at the moment, and these three on track at the moment are the last three to set times. Brendan Ross will be the first, followed by Ricky Slick, followed by Phil Boak, and then that'll round out everybody having attempted to set a time, because we've obviously got two drivers in the pit lane in Zach and Brownie that have not been able to get a time in. In actual fact, they've been disqualified.
Does that mean they start from pit lane for that?
That means they start from the back of the grid.
Okay. Well, if they started from pit lane, it might have been a blessing in disguise. But since they start from back of the grid, you just take it easy and just watch it all unfold in front of you. And we see it unfolding in front of us. That Brendan Ross, he goes with a 55.5.
Ricky Slick goes to P11, and the last man now, we're looking for Philip Boak, and he's 6/10 off the pole time at the moment. So where's that going to put him in that mid-pack, 7th or 8th or somewhere around there for his first flying effort? And it's actual fact 7th. Now let's see if we can pick up where Brendan Ross is, and he's still.
He's struggling.
He is struggling a little bit. Now, we have commented several times that this car seems like it's very twitchy. Now, we're not sure if that's just the aggressive style that Rossi decides to have. See, just look right there. There's a little bit of a moment, just the wiggle as it came out of cold corner. Where
Yeah, 100%. Oh, it seems to be working on his PB, but not quite on his on the pole lap. Brenton Foley, just absolute class lap there. We're not sure if he only had one go at it. We're going to see if... See, he takes the Dwayne Davies line through there as well, so maybe opening up the steering and getting up on the throttle. Not quite. So he's off on his PB as well.
Yeah, he was too. Now, where's Ricky Slick and all this? Ricky Slick actually jumped up to P7, so it's a good job from Ricky Slick. Phil Boak, the last man who is going to set a qualifying time, or improve potentially his qualifying time, and he does. That's a good jump, 8th to 4th.
Yeah, and look how close he was to Dwayne Davies. He's about 0.004 of a second behind Dwayne Davies' time. So Dwayne Davies on a 55.396 and a Philip Boak on a 55.401.
Sure is. Well, the man on pole, well, it's not provisional pole, it's pole now, is Brenton Foley, very, very close to breaking the 55-second barrier, so 55.042. Mitchell Hathaway, 10th and a half away, and then look at the gaggle of cars behind. Davies, Boak, Courier, Ross, Dougal Salonga, they're all separated by about a 10th and a half, so not much in that at all, with Ricky Slick, Termo, and Will Devonish rounding out the top 10 runners.
Well, actually, seeing as all the mid-pack sort of cars, they're quite closely matched, might make for good racing eventually in the night, which with a race like the 176 kilometres tonight, it's going to be interesting to see them all, sort of in a train for the whole race if nothing goes to tears. But, these drivers are very good and they'll keep it together, I'm sure.
Well, in that case, what we might do is, since we're talking about the 176 kilometres, is we will take a moment away from the circuit and we'll go back to what is our lovely graphic of the Perth circuit known as Barbagallo Raceway. Effectively, that's what it's called now.
Either or. I think the Barbagallo family, they still sponsor it, but it is located in the suburb of Wanneroo in Perth.
That is correct. And Alf Barbagallo actually pouring a lot of money into that circuit in 1992 for the extension. So for those of you a bit unfamiliar with Barbagallo Raceway, it actually branched off at what is now turn 5 and made a loop or a hard right to down to halfway along. That's the straight now that runs between turn 6 and turn 7. That's where the circuit went. 1992, he poured a bunch of money into the circuit to form the extension that went all the way up to the bowl at turn 6, came all the way back around and rejoined where the circuit was. And as a matter of, a little bit of, I guess, tribute for the amount of money that he poured in for that, hence it became known as Barbagallo Raceway from that point in time. Had a number of resurfaces during the years. What we'll do now is we'll actually bring the circuit and the race information up for you so you can have a look. So there it is. It's not the shortest circuit on the calendar. That honour goes to the Symonds Plains circuit in Tasmania, but not by very much. 73 lap race tonight, as we said. 176 Ks, clockwise in direction, 7 corners, as we mentioned before. The good thing is, it's just like Symonds Plains, it's a sub 1 minute lap time. So the laps tend to go fairly quickly here, but the bad news is that historically this place has been very, very hard on tyres. It's had a number of resurfaces over the years, but we're not sure exactly what condition the AMS Oz track is going to be. And probably what is going to be the most important part tonight is not so much getting off of pit road, but getting onto pit road, Hans, because it happens time and time and time again. It didn't matter whether it was the old pit lane or the new pit lane. It is a nightmare trying to get onto pit road here.
Yeah, 100%. You're trying to, well, back in the old days it was darting left, but now it's darting right. And the thing is, what often happens is that there's a lot of front to rear contact made, and sometimes it's heavy enough to put both of the drivers out of the race. So, I mean, not really anyone's fault, but when cars come together and there's a rapid rate of deceleration trying to get into pit lane and everyone's worrying about their own pit strategy and whether they're going to press on or what lap they're going to pit and that sort of stuff, well, these things tend to happen. But it just all adds to the spectacle at Barbagallo.
It certainly does, and I guess it's a little bit of it's the biggest part of the strategy part of tonight's race, the fact that you do have to get on and off pit road. It's not a sprint race thing, and we're definitely going to see at least one, probably more than likely 2 stops in tonight's race as well, just depending on how harsh the drivers treat this circuit. As we said, we're not 100% sure how hard the circuit actually is going to be on tyres. Historically, it's been hard on tyres, but obviously in the sim world, we're not 100% sure how it's going to be. One thing that I have noticed from watching real life Barbagallo is that there is actually the ability to come into the pit lane before you get to turn 7. There is actually a runoff road there. Do you honestly think that they should start using that road to negate some of these potential issues, or should we just leave it the way that it is and run the risk? What's your thoughts?
Well, if you have to use the runoff road from before turn 7, well, everyone has to use it. Don't give them the decision and say you can use the runoff road at the end of turn 7, just after turn 7, or the one before turn 7. You have to say, no, this is the pit entry point, and this is where we put the pit limiter on, and no one's going to get an advantage. The thing is, if you're going to say, oh, you know what, you can sort of pick where you go, well, then, then that starts to add a bit of, people will be complaining about it. They'll say, oh, is it slow here or slow there? And, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, if you leave the option open, say, we're going to use this one, we're going to use the one after the one we're currently using, so the one after turn 7, then if someone really feels like going with the escape road from before turn 7, then, I mean, that's their prerogative and they can do that if they want. If it's really that much safer, then it'll pay off for them. But if we're going to use the longer pit entry, then everyone should use it, I reckon.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's something that I guess divides a lot of people, given we've seen how many times over the course of a race weekend that people do get spun in the rear. I mean, it happened as recently as the weekend just gone in real life in supercars in the Super Night over in Perth. But look, we hope we don't see any of that tonight, and that's probably something that will be pointed out very, very strongly in the driver's briefing that's just happening right now. There's 1 or 2 drivers that are taken to the circuit a little bit earlier than expected, but it'll be reinforced. It's the pit lane exit is not such a big issue because you've got plenty of time to see what the cars are that are around you and find an opportunity to feed back in, but you just don't want to get hit in the rear coming in onto pit road because it's such a short point as well. You get around the corner, you've got to start decelerating, and that's the point where the contact tends to happen. So communication, I guess, is going to be key. If most of these guys tend to sit all in the same chat channel, so if someone's following them, they should just yell out and say, yep, I'm going in, and it allows the person behind to lay off and give them an opportunity to get through.
In some of the sims where you have things like indicators, I find them very useful to say, yep, you know what, indicator on, I'm coming in this lap. And people generally are very good at that. But being an ISI based sim, it's not really got that functionality.
No, certainly not. And just seeing, it looks like Steve Burko's managed to get his issues sorted, which is great to see, but he's going to be starting down the back of the grid, and it's going to be with his teammate, Zach, and also with Brownie, who both ended up being disqualified from that qualifying session. So good, strong field, actually. 20 runners. This is probably one of the best fields we've had in Super 2 for quite some time. We've normally sort of around the high teens, but good to see we got what is pretty close to going to be a full grid.
Yeah, 100%. It's good to see 20 cars out and running in this fantastic recreation of the Barbagallo circuit. And being quite a short circuit, I'm hoping that there's a lot of action, but a lot of fun and a lot of good things to commentate on. Probably not too much fun because we're all coughing and spluttering out here, aren't we?
Yeah, well, that's the hard part for us is we've had so much commentary in the last week and a bit that it also, we're a bit unwell. You and I are both had our fair share of illness over the last couple of days. And
Oh, you know me, mate. I'm always unwell, but now I'm just physically unwell. Well, I'm out of the woods now. Just my voice is not very good, and I have to do a lot of talking tonight.
No, well, I had to do a lot of talking last night. I've got to do a lot of talking tonight, and I'm actually standing up to commentate. Usually I sit down, but I'm sort of doing my best to try and negate the effects of whatever it is that's ingested my body at the moment. But well, what we might do is we might take a short break because we've got 4 minutes until the cars start gridding up, so that'll give us at least an opportunity to clear our throats and get ourselves set for what lies ahead. So we'll be back in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to round 5 of the AMS Oz Super 2 series from Barbagallo Raceway. Steve DeVries, Nether, and Hans Brunswick in commentary for you for this one. We've actually just seen a little bit of a rather bizarre incident. We didn't get a chance to capture it on the replay, but what it was Glenn Miles basically coming straight out of his pit garage and into the pit wall.
That's on the signalling wall, so there's a few race engineers. They're going to be jumping up and down about it.
I'm sure there will be. Now the lane is literally flooded with cars at the moment, all doing out laps, all doing flying laps, all doing pit in laps. And I think we might get an example here of this is the new teammate for JP Courier's team, JP Simshed in Jinx, Now,
How many chrome ZB Commodores are we going to see? There's clearly a discount on chrome paint down at your super cheap
Well-
auto, and he's using the turn 7 access road, so
this
it
is...
might actually not be that bad because it's fairly straight.
Well, in
It
actual
might be a
fact,
bit
you can
quicker.
see that we just saw
the
it there. There was
cones are
some
there.
cones out there, so that...
So we are using the turn 7 road. Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Right, well,
See, that's gonna make it heaps easier for people to get into pit lane.
Now, I want to point out something to you right on this screen now. You can see the two JP Simshed cars with their chrome livery, but you can also see a little bit of gold chrome there on the front of Zach's car as well. So he's the new teammate to Steve Burko. And also we've got the two CRE motorsport cars driven by Cam Rutledge and Will Devonish. So they've got chrome on their cars as well. So we've got 4 Commodores now with a bit of chrome. We've got 1 Falcon with a bit of chrome, but sadly no Nissans.
Yeah, no, we need all the manufacturers. 100% manufacturer representation is what we're going for, but right now 66.6% isn't bad. But I think they maybe got a discount on the garages as well if they all paid up front. It's just like state racing, isn't it? You pay your garage up front. You all give the money to the one bloke. They go to the steward's office and they say, yes, I want this, and they give it to you. Here we go. Speaking of, Steve Burko comes in. And there we go. The whole family is in there.
No, they are indeed. There you go. So last little bits of practice during the warm-up session just being finalised at the moment. And the clock has gone 0, so we won't be too far away from gridding up for this 73-lap race. And I think we're going to have to equally share the race calling duties here tonight, Hans, because we've both got sore throats, so it's no good one of us just doing all the work and one interjecting with the comments. I think we're going to have to make this a real 50-50 split effort tonight so we can both look after our throats.
Yeah, well, see, as of the recent past, I've been sort of relegated to just interjecting comments and things about technical specs and technical sections and all that sort of stuff. So calling the race will be interesting. It's gonna be first time in a while, actually.
Well, all the drivers are slowly filtering out in this 60-second period that they have to get onto the grid. You can see there's Zach's just behind his teammate Steve Burko, so obviously that's positions 18, 19, or 18 and 20th on the grid there, with Brownie taking up P20, and we're just waiting on. There's Brendan Foley on the pole, Mitchell Hathaway alongside, so that'll be an interesting duel to the line. It'll be ZB Commodore on the inside of the circuit, and then the VF Commodore on the outside. Let's see how we go. About to get underway for this formation lap in just a few seconds. And here we go. Well, rolling through the grid order, Brenton Foley, PBF Race Engineering, P number 1. Mitchell Hathaway alongside in P2. And then the first of the Fords, Dwayne Davies. Good to see he's back in the saddle and back out there on the track in P3, followed by Phil Boak in the Craig Lowndes 1999 liveried special livery car, PBF Race Engineering. JP Courier, provisional, or the fastest man in practice, is sitting in P5. It's a pretty respectable result, alongside Brendan Ross. Through the remainder of the top 10 we go. Billy Douglas Salonga, the second of the HDS racing cars, so both HDS cars in the top 10. Ricky Slick for FCR Motorsport. Termo, the first of the Nissans, the Castrol Racing 715, and running at top 10 is Will Devonish for CRE Motorsport. And we work back through the field. Josh Ben, who debuted at Phillip Island last time out, actually had a really good run from the back of the grid before unfortunately not being able to work out the pit strategy. Ended up having to retire. Jinx, teammate JP Courier on debut this week in P12. Cam Rutledge, the second for CRE Motorsport cars, in 13th. Brian Walsh for Scuderia Alitalia in 14th. Rhodey, PBF Pro-Am, back in the saddle as well, 15th. Glenn Miles in the Spitwater Cleaners Nissan is P16. Cracker finish starts P17. Steve Burko 18th. 19th the Brownie, and Zach starting P20 on debut, so the back two rows of the grid occupied by the Cracker Racing Team and the Top Gear Racing Team cars. And they're just coming around the last corner now, and there's still a lot of waiting going on here at the front and just waiting for them to grid up. So all that tyre temperature, all that tyre pressure and brake temperature just slowly eking away.
Just an interesting thing to note, Brody, he actually uses race boots when he's driving on his G25 or G27. I can't recall which of the Logitech products he uses, but race boots. Let's see how it goes. And have we got? Are those the red lights for the pit lane? Or are
They're
for
the old pit lane lights there. We're just waiting to hear. I think
They're the
someone's.
old pit lane lights.
I think someone's out of position here. Here we go. Yeah, there they were. Lights are coming on, and we will be away in a few seconds. Racing. Foley didn't get the initial launch. Mitchell Hathaway managed to get away and is all stacking up here. Great launch from JP Courier as well. He's going to be on the inside of Dwayne Davies. Three wide this early. Who pops out the other side? It's Mitchell Hathaway who pops out the other side in the lead of this race. The pole sitter has been shuffled back to fourth already.
How about Phil Boak? He just went from fourth up to second. He was doing the Craig Loud sort of style start. He just shot up through the middle, and he's coming under attack from, I think that's JP Courier.
Yeah, Courier's moved up to third place already, so he's gotten past the pole sitter as well. Dwayne Davies was a P3, been shuffled back to what looks like fifth at the moment. Under threat from Brendan Ross as well. In actual fact, Ross went through the timing boom ahead of Dwayne Davies, and physically is ahead of Dwayne Davies on track as well. HDS car of Billy Douglas Salong has managed to stay in seventh. Yeah, there's a move on down the end here.
Turn 7.
Yep.
And that's Phil Boak up the inside, and is he going to give him the short back and sides? No, not quite. He give him a bit of room, but now he's going to go up into the preferred line into turn 1, and he's going to use the Craig Lowndes technique. I keep mentioning Craig Lowndes, but he was the best one at turn 1 with his technique back in the old days. And off he goes into the lead yet again. So Hathaway relegated back to second after a ripper start, and then JP Courier, then Foley, Ross, Davies, Devonish, Jinx, making his debut, Dougal Salonga and Josh Ben up into the top 10.
Yeah, Josh Ben's moved into the top 10. The man who's dropped out of the top 10 from the start there is Termo, so he was inside the top 10. He's now gone back to just on the edge of the top 10 in 11th, but a great textbook pass by Phil Boak on the run to turn 7. Turn 7 and 1 traditional, or 6, 7 and 1 are traditionally the 3 passing zones on this circuit, and he used that opening lap to good effect, got a great run out of turn 6, and now starts to edge away from Mitchell Hathaway. He's got about a half a second lead on him at the moment, probably be about the same, maybe about 6 or so tenths as they get to the line this time around, I would say, just judging by the distance, and it's actually 7.5, so I wasn't too far wrong.
Yeah, so when the track goes up to turn 7, you can really hook into the brake pedal there, and it makes for some interesting passing opportunities. As we see Hathaway sort of falling into the clutches of JP Courier here. We've seen them in the wars. One of them, we've seen Hathaway and Dougal Salonga in the wars at Phillip Island, and then JP Courier, we saw him in the wars at Simmons Plains, but otherwise they've had all right sort of seasons. They've been sort of trucking along.
They certainly have.
Warner now.
There's a couple of drivers I've noticed that have actually we'll see this here. JP Courier's got overlap now on Mitchell Hathaway, so that was very, very easy out of the bowl, so a bit of a slow exit.
Yeah, Steve, that was a really good run out of the corner. That was a really good drive, and he's all around the outside there. The inside of the corner. He's on the right side and gives him the hip and shoulder. The problem is his mid-corner speed, he had to tippy-toe around it. So let's see who gets the preferred line here. Oh, a bit more bumping, but it's all fair game at the moment. He was right alongside him, and up he goes into second. Yeah,
a little bit of bump and grind. It's not terrible. It didn't punt him off, which is the important thing. And JP Courier now up to second, and can he do anything about Phil Boak, who's got about 1.7 seconds, it's actually 1.2 now, at the head of the field. I was just saying, just before that battle unfolded, there's a couple of drivers that are really out of position at the moment and have gone backwards since the start. One of them is this man here, as we just cut to seeing, that's a little bit strange. What's happened to Brownie there? Mr. Marshall posted something. Yeah, he has. I'm going to see if we can pick up on the replay what happened to him here. While we're mentioning it, it's like it's down at turn 4 somewhere, I think. Oh yeah, big loss.
Yeah, he's off the road there, and he's out in the weeds. It's amazing he managed to find his way back.
Yeah, he's actually managed to get. At least he's gotten back onto the circuit, and it did register him as 17th for a little bit, but thankfully he's gotten back onto the circuit, and he's come onto the circuit in 19th. Now I was about to say there's a couple of people who have gone a bit backwards since the start. So
Rhodey's struggling. Here we go.
He's just doing donuts on the grass. That's not what he wanted to be doing. I'm not sure what he's done there. He's obviously had a moment, so we'll let him get his bearings and come back to him. Ricky Slick, he's also gone backwards since the drop of the green flag as well. He was sort of up there in the early mid pack. He slid all the way back to 20th at one stage. He's now worked his way back up to 17th. The two Top Gear cars have come forward as well. So Steve Burko is currently in P13. He started 18th, and Zach, who started in 20th and dead last, has actually one place ahead of him in 12th. So they're running line astern. So a very late entry to the server for these guys, but already looks like maybe some of that offline practice might have paid off.
Yeah, for sure. They're just sort of following each other, and wherever Zach goes, Steve will follow him, which is pretty good. And that's the benefit of having a teammate. But yeah, interesting to see. Maybe the race boots aren't quite working for Brody at the moment. It's race boots with sim gear, as we all know, that those watching, it's quite deadens all the feeling in the pedals, as Steve Burko, we find, has gone a bit wide there. He's sort of falling out of the reach of his teammate Zach, and he's sort of falling into the clutches of Cam Rutledge.
Sure is. And one other person I want to make mention too, we're just seeing he's actually slid down the order a lot further, and that's this man here, Brenton Foley. He's really gone backwards. He's lost 6 places since the start. He was the pole sitter. And look where he is. He's actually behind Jinx, which is a man who's on debut at the moment. So we don't know too much about Jinx. So the only thing that springs to mind with Jinx is that JP Courier's mentioned several times on his Facebook page for JP Simshed, as he sets the quickest lap time that time around of a 55.371. Jinx shifters is he does tend to use Jinx shifters with the sim rig that he has. And I'm wondering if there's any relation there. Perhaps there is.
This is a very uncharacteristic performance so far by Brendan Foley. We're used to seeing him fighting at the front. It's not usually that we see him going backwards, but the car doesn't look very happy at all. He's struggling everywhere. It's just twitching and turning, and it's just looks pretty horrible at the moment compared to Jinx's car, which looks very nice, stable platform through all the corners.
Apart from that little lockup they just had into turn 1 this time around, or last time around, but he managed to hold station. And the top 7 cars or so are actually quite strung out, but the only thing that we're seeing here is that gap at the front between Courier and Boak is just sort of ebbing and flowing. You have a look at the sector times, and Courier did a 19.1 in sector 1 compared to Boak's 19.4, but then it was reversed the other way around. It was a 19.5 in the middle sector to Boak versus a 19.8 to Courier, and the lap times were virtually identical at the end of all, 55.475 to 55.434, so there's really nothing in it. They're going hammer and tongs at it. That gap is just continuing to ebb and flow. It's really not stabilising, and it's really not swinging one way or the other. It's sort of pretty much, it ends up where it is at the end of every lap. They're stronger in different sectors compared to each other, and we've just lost our first runner in Brownie, who we did see was off the road. So Brownie from the Cracker race team, unfortunately out of this race when he was just 4 laps in.
Got most of our runners on the lead lap. We've got 18 of our 19 runners. That's Glenn Miles. He's about 40 seconds behind. We're not sure if he's going to be lapped, but when we see Rhodey, he's gone a lap down on the timing monitor. But 18 on the lead lap so far, 9 laps into the 73 lap race, as we see Brendan Ross come under attack from Dwayne Davies in the Pertec Falcon.
Yeah, little lock up for DD into turn number 1 there, and lucky to get away with not just being a little bit far enough ahead of Jinx to not lose a spot there. But Brendan Ross is starting to be a little bit of a cork in a champagne bottle here, as we keep saying. He's the one that's under pressure, and as we've said before, that sometimes that car does not look as stable on screen as Rossi tries to make it out to be. Maybe that's just the driving style. But someone's going to size up an opportunity to pass sooner or later, and Jinx has seized the opportunity of a mistake from DD, and I'm not sure if DD just missed a gear shift then, but Foley goes sailing past as well, so Foley gets one of those spots back, and very quickly, and a lock up from Brendan Ross as well, but not at the critical stage. That has given a real sniff to Jinx behind, driving it very hard into turn 1 there.
See, Brendan Ross is getting very hungry on the curbs. We just see him taking a lot of curb everywhere. So he takes curb into turn 2, then into turn 3, and then turn 4. Not quite. It's a bit too far left on the side of the road. But Jinx is getting very close to the back of that VF Commodore. And may give him a bit of Morse code as well.
Yeah, it's so much more mid-corner speed there at turn number 4 as well. Now, headlights are on here for Brendan Ross. I'm wondering if there's a bit of lap traffic ahead. Usually that would be the reason why the lights go on. This was scheduled to be a twilight race, but it doesn't look like it's going to be. And we've got another DNF as well, so that's Zach's, a teammate to... And actually, yes, it is some lap traffic in the form of Glenn Miles. And Jinx seizes on what Brendan Ross starts, and gets through. So too does Foley, so too does Dwayne Davies. So Glenn Miles goes a lap down, but Zach unfortunately out after just 7 laps. Already 11 laps in. As we said, the laps tend to fly past here, but there's quite a lot of them, so we've still got a little while to go.
That was fascinating to watch Jigs going into turn 1. He was just sliding in on the rears ever so slightly. He was just sort of twitching back and forth. All these cars are twitching. It looks fantastic. This is a bloody good shot, isn't it?
It is a really good shot through turn 4 and turn 5. Just goes to show you how close and how much, as I said before, how much more mid-corner speed Jinx just seems to have over Brendan Ross right now. Foley's now sizing up an opportunity. Brendan Ross, big lock-up.
Ooh,
that's the opportunity Jinx
there.
needed. Got down the inside here, so if he can stay with him, he's going to have overlap, but Ross managed to get a bit better drive out. But this is as close as Jinx has been for a little while now. Is there a dive looking down here into turn 7? Sizes him up. Yes, there is. Down the inside
He's far
decisively.
enough. Well done. What a move. And Foley wants a bit of that as well, but he's not quite far up. Let's see if he has a look at turn 1. We're going to have a look now. So he's showing the nose, but not quite there far enough yet. As we see Jinx, he locks up and goes wide. So, wow, this is probably the best battle on the circuit at the moment.
It probably is the best battle on the circuit at the moment because actually at the front we actually haven't picked this up, but Courier's actually gone through on Boak as well and leads comfortably by 1.4 seconds at the moment. So we haven't quite worked out what's happened or when that actually took place. Probably within the last 2 or so laps we've been focused in on this battle because it's been such a ripping battle between these drivers for what is 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. And we now expect Jinx will probably clear away a little bit from this battle, and Foley with a reasonably good exit out of the bowl. It's just not close enough though.
You need to be careful because this is the first stanza of the race. There's about 70 laps to go, so they need to be careful that they're not using too much car in this stage and they manage to make it last, because when you're trying to engine brake it on the downshift and you're clutching and heel and toe and all that, so it does take a lot out of the car. As we see he couldn't quite get up on the back of Ross there, and Foley's fallen back into the clutches of Dwayne Davies, and Dwayne Davies is having a look, but Brendan Ross is locked up, and Foley's gone wide out as well, so that gives Dwayne Davies a look, but he's not quite far enough to make it stick at turn 4. Very hungry on the curve and gets it all sliding.
Foley with a real moment there through turn 5, and he concedes position to Dwayne Davies. So DD was right there. He was on the wrong side for turn 5, but fortunately for him, Foley took way too much curb and got loose, and that was the invitation that DD needed to go through, and now that battle for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th is really strung out. The yellow flag down here in the final sector. I'm just trying to see if on the screen if anybody has gone off there. In actual fact, I think it's 16th place man Brian Walsh who may have gone off the circuit. Yeah, it looks like he has gone off the circuit and dropping down the timing screens. Something's gone a little bit wrong there. In actual fact, no, we thought he was in the pit lane for a minute, but it's all been cleared now, which is good. Now, who is this they're encountering here? Now, this is Rhodey. Rhodey's...
he needs to get out of the way because he's going to start influencing this battle.
Yep, and look at that. Brendan Ross is now off the
there
road.
There we go, right on cue. So, I think all these drivers... Oh, he's having trouble getting back on. And he loses a spot to Devonish, so that's disastrous.
Yeah, I was about to say Devonish and was having a decent battle with... I think it might have been with Josh Ben for a little while there. But as a result of Rhodey being on the racing line or just being caught at the wrong time. And fuel stop. Here we go. Devonish is in. So there's first of the pit stops are starting to happen. So Devonish had made some good progress. And he now comes in for his first stop. 40k an hour on the pit lane limit. And he's got one of the first garages. And this is probably not a bad idea to stop. And this can get quite a congested pit lane. And he's taking tyres as well as fuel. So definitely a 2-stop strategy here. And this probably, I would say, is a little bit early.
Yeah, he's probably going to try and see if he can get some good fuel efficiency. But the problem is with that is that you sort of need to be following cars for it. But the benefit of that is that, you're not going to get caught up in an accident. So he made up a lot of spots. And I think that in that opening sector of the race, in that opening stint, that's a really good thing. And this might actually, with this undercut, it might actually help him.
There's a couple of other drivers we're just seeing that look like they may have come into the pits as well. Brian Walsh and Steve Burko may very well have come in as well, but where Devonish has dropped out just behind his teammate Cam Rutledge is actually not a bad spot to drop into. They're ahead of Ricky Slick, and now they can just, the pair of them, these two are teammates on screen, don't forget, and they occupy pretty much I wouldn't say they occupy the same Discord together, but they continue to cycle. and now they can just focus on doing their own thing. Will there be a little swap on? I'm not 100% sure. Yes, there is.
So Devonish has got fresher tyres, and I don't think Rutledge is too far away from stopping himself. So I think it's just better to let Devonish go and make hay while the sun shines. Speaking of, he goes a bit wide there, probably pushing the new tyres a bit past their limit.
No, I think you're probably right there. They just need to get their head down and keep going. And Devonish probably looking to affect the undercut. Now we go back to the race leaders here, and they're getting some lap traffic. So Courier goes through to start his 17th lap, just getting past Steve Burko and Brian Walsh there. So they're now one lap down to the race leaders, such as the pace. Looking at the pace out front, it's hovering around the mid-56s at the moment as they were encountering some lap traffic. Most drivers actually doing 56s at the moment. Everyone's sort of right down to about Turmo in 10th place, and then there's a couple of loose 57s and 58s there, given that there have been a couple of stops. Holding a lead that's probably stabilised in the last couple of laps is JP Courier. It's been around that 1.2, 1.4 seconds, but as both drivers have to negotiate the traffic, in actual fact it's been chopped down a little bit. I think that maybe Courier might have got the rough end of the stick there on that last lap, having to probably caught Steve Burko at the final corner, because the gap has definitely shortened a little bit here. But Courier was holding a very, very steady advantage, and he's had pretty much half of it wiped out in this lap alone. But the two drivers on screen here have really edged away from third place Mitchell Hathaway at the moment. Here he is.
Sorry, Cracker, DNF.
Yep, he's so that's both the Cracker racing cars out. Oh, we've got a car off at turn number one. And
as well, actually.
I'm just trying to work out who that was. I think that might have been Brian Walsh, or it may very well have been Cracker that we saw in the background. I think it was Brian Walsh just at the first turn who I'd seen going off into the sand trap. And Jinx! What's happened to Jinx? We've lost Jinx somewhere along the line as well. Do we have this on the replay? Yes, we do. Oh, that's an engine failure.
Engine failure.
That is an engine failure, and trying to work out where that actually was. So, not 100% sure where that was. Looked like it might have been potentially into the first corner, I think. That might have been what we just saw, actually. That might have been the car going off at turn one as opposed to Brian Walsh. Maybe it was actually Jinx.
All right, here we go. We got one of the FCR cars off. That might be...
I say that's probably Ricky Slick, but no, maybe it might be Ricky Slick. It wouldn't be... I might actually try to work out who that is.
Yeah, I can't quite work out who it is, actually. So it can't be Ricky Slick because he just gave that up very easily.
He certainly did.
See on the timing monitor.
Well, speaking of a timing monitor, this is about as close as these guys have been for a little while now. And there has been another change for the lead here up at the bowl. And that now puts Boak back into the lead. But for how long? Because it's been a very fair fight between these two for the opening 19 laps of this race. And very late on the brakes. Look how much braking performance he's got, JP Courier. Superbly pulled that up under brakes for turn 7. From a long way back too.
Yeah, so I think they've got the different strengths and weaknesses. JP clearly has it under brakes, but Phil Boak, I think, is struggling under brakes, but he is very good in the drive out of the corners. So I think that you know, at the end of the day, it makes them evenly matched as we see that fantastic shot into turn 4, the car's twitching and sliding everywhere. And Courier is trying to get that lead back up now. It's about 4.5 tenths lead on Phil Boak, if you can really call it that. It's about a couple of car lengths.
And a little bit of trading places that these two have been going through in the last lap and a half has allowed Hathaway to chop into their lead just a little bit. Got down to 3.4 seconds last time around. And then there's a bit of daylight back to Dwayne Davies. And Foley's managed to get 2 of those places back. That he was down in 7th place at one stage, down back up to P5. Billy Dougal-Salonga's moved up to 7th as well. Brennan Ross is pretty much entrenched where he was. Turmo's found his way back into the top 10 as well, with everything going on. Devonish and Ricky Slick rounding out the top 10. So Devonish, one of the early men to stop, has managed to find his way back into the top 10. The question will be, when does the rest of the top 10 stop? Because Devonish is doing his best to try and get the undercut on as many drivers as he can, putting that fresh rubber to use. But the real question is going to be, what sort of strategy are these front-running cars on at the moment?
Oh, look at this. That was very nervous.
Oh, we've lost it. That's Brian
That's
Walsh.
one of the Scuderia Alitalia cars. Is that Brian Walsh?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. So that's Brian Walsh in 27.
Yeah, we didn't quite catch this. He's actually had a bit of an issue before. We'll see if we can rewind it and pick up a little bit about what's happened here. But he's had a really hard moment, and I don't know what he's done, but he's missing a rear wing. As we continue to rewind, I think that's enough rewinding. He's obviously had some sort of major drama, and he's lost the rear wing of that car. And still going, and that's why the yellow flag is currently out. Now, he's driving the wrong way.
Oh, this is going to be wild and willing stuff. He's just sort of appeared at the top of the hill.
Yeah, he's hopefully be able to coast down the hill now and into pit lane and get another rear wing and keep going, because as we saw in the GT3 race 2 weeks ago, circulating and getting points is the most important thing.
100%. So they're going to put a wing on the Scuderia Alitalia machine. They're going to make it stick to the ground and not go up in the air, which is a bit unusual for an airline.
Turmo just leaving the pits there as well, so a couple of other drivers electing to take service. Let's see if we can pick up where Turmo's going to feed in here.
But Turbo is actually the second bloke to come into the pit, so it's only been Devonish and Turbo at the moment, but Turbo's he's going a lap down potentially. Yeah, there we go. So he's a lap down now, so he had to wait for the blue flags.
He did the right thing. He did the right thing there. He saw the race leaders coming and let them go, which was a very, very wise thing to do, because he would have fed literally straight out in front of Courier's nose, and did the sensible thing and let them go. And obviously Mitchell Hathaway now coming up to put him a lap down as well, and does the right thing, gets off the racing line. That's very, very good.
So being a short lap around here, do you reckon he can get back up onto the lead lap, or not quite?
I'm not 100% sure. So there's Brian Walsh that's in the lane at the moment as we cycle through the field. I thought I saw somebody else in the pit lane just for a second there as well. And there's Brian Walsh leaving the lane at the moment. He's probably going to feed in just behind Josh Ben.
We're just having a look at Josh Ben. He's flying the flag for PBF Pro-Am.
And Josh Ben goes through safely. And actual fact, Brian Walsh's done a very good job just to feed in at the back of the train going through turn 1 at the moment as well. So good job there. Now, back to the head of the field we go. We want to take, actually before we go, let's going on here. Foley's having a bit of a challenge on Dwayne Davies again, up through the turn 1, 2, 3, and now left through turn 4.
Oh, they're pushing hard. They're separated at the hip, these two blokes, and they're going right at it. But Foley's sort of fallen back another couple of car lengths on D2. And here we go. D2 has the lead in this battle for how long? But Foley, he's struggling, isn't he?
Yeah, Foley is definitely struggling. I really expected more pace out of him. Maybe the ultimate one-lap pace is, I'm not sure if it wouldn't put it down to a fluke, but definitely did not get the jump off the line that we expected to, as D2 will go down the inside of his fellow Falcon driver in Brian Walsh, and Foley follows him, and actually Foley had a much better run through the turn this time and should comfortably have a pass done, and actually breaks a little bit later than D2, and that's an easy and textbook pass at turn 1. Foley up P4.
What they just need to do now is stop trying to argue over this position and try and make their way up back to the head of the field. I reckon they can do it. It's about 11 seconds gap to JP Courier, but the more they argue over this, the more they tear each other apart, the easier it is for the top 3 blokes to run away from them.
Well, the hard part for them is that given the lap times that everybody's doing, they're on such a par that they really need to chip away at big chunks. Whereas they only chip away at a 10th here or a 10th there, they're not going to really make any effect. They need to be doing like low 55s or mid 55s, because everybody around them's doing low 56s and mid 56s. They really need to chop into that advantage quickly. They've 25 laps into a 73 lap race. You'd think there's still a bit to go, but all it takes is something to go the wrong way, and you're in all sorts of strife.
100%. When it's so evenly matched like this, every second you drop, whether on track or in pit lane, it takes a very, very long time to get it back up again. I'm sort of struggling with both our voices here. We're coughing and spluttering still.
Yeah, we sure are. I can hear it echoing on your mic every time I need to take a breath to give myself a cough. It's not so much on my mic, but on your one it definitely is, using a different type of mic. Let's go back to the head of the field and see what's going on here, because JP Courier's just managed to edge away again steadily over Phil Boak. He's been doing it in, I guess, in short bursts, but that time he pulled out another 0.5 of a second, so he doubled his lead effectively on that last tour. The last lap was a 55.7 for Courier and a 55, only a 10th of a second. Thought it was a 56 for a minute. It's actually just rolled over and updated, so it's 55.8. So only gained a 10th of a second on the previous lap. But this is sort of the gap that it had been for most of the race until the traffic started to play its hand. Now, these guys have been on the go for a while now, and their lap time has really not dropped off. Their ultimate lap time pace, or their race lap pace, has really not dropped off. Courier is still quite strong in Sector 1. Boak just has a little bit in Sector 2 on him, and then we'll see what the Sector 3 times are when they come through this time around. We're just going to wait for our timing to roll over. So Boak's done a 55.6, Courier a 55.9. So
55. So that's pretty impressive considering this is supposed to be a high degradation circuit. Maybe the Automobilista Barbagallo crew, they've managed to get the resurfacing out done as well, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, with a bit of luck that would be the case. As we said, in real life this circuit's been through a couple of resurfaces in the years. I think recently in the last few years, I think it's been done again, hasn't it, from memory? Or when was the last one?
Yeah, so this year they actually did it, and they put a nice new sealant on it. It's a rubberized type sealant, which hopefully means it'll last a lot longer. It won't degrade so badly. The old surface was actually laid in 2004, and Jason Bright had the lap record, and I think that was a low 55. It was a 55.2 from memory, and in that race, everyone broke the lap record from the previous year. So, Barbagallo, it used quite a coarse aggregate, and not that much sealant between the aggregate. But now we're watching Phil Boak. He sort of ran a little bit wide at turn 1, but firmly around that 1 second barrier between JP Courier and Phil Boak. Phil Boak, he manages to get the nose of the car pointed in quite well. So just dipped under 1 second now. So that's pretty impressive.
It sure is. Meanwhile, a little bit of word on the wire as to a couple of the reasons for the retirements. Obviously, Jinx, we know, had done an engine. Rhodey apparently has also had done an engine as well. Basically, his problem was he went deep at the last turn and hit the wall, and obviously the engine being at the front of the car, that was the end of that chapter. Cracker, we're not sure what happened to him. It looks like same with the others that are there, Zach and Brownie. So not as much word on the wire as we liked, but obviously 2 engine failures out of the 5 retirements so far. Let's just look through the field and see what's happening here, because Dougal Salonga's actually moved up into 4th place in all of this as well. But directly behind him, Devonish and Foley. So Foley was up to P4, so potentially Foley has stopped. In actual fact, if I have a look at the timesheets, so too is Hathaway, and so too is Dougal Salonga. Foley has definitely stopped, and so too has Brennan Ross. And in comes Dougal Salonga. Well, what's the reason for this? Because his lap time last time around was a 1 minute 4.58. So I'm wondering whether he forgot to change tyres or something, because he's definitely been through the lane, but he's now stopping again. This is most unusual.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at live races, and it's not quite showing. The only person it's showing has pitted. It says pit 00000, and then we've got Devonish. It says 1. So I'm not quite sure what's up with that. And maybe Steve-O, you can explain?
Yeah, something's not right there. Actual fact, I think Phil Boak might be in the pits at the moment. Actually, Salonga gets a drive-through penalty, and indeed Phil Boak is in the pits. So maybe going for the undercut here, and gets out. Who's that coming into the lane there? That would be, I think, Cam Rutledge potentially, in from P11.
That's Cam Rutledge.
That is Cam Rutledge from P11. JP Courier now doing the right thing. Looks like he's going to be coming in this lap as well, trying to do his best to cover off any potential undercut. And this is the way you treat it when you see your opponent dive in and trying to get on you, is to basically come in and get it over and done with straight away. Yeah,
100%. Let's see. He's obviously stretched the fuel mileage a little bit more, so let's see if that actually pays off for him, because it's going to be a 2-stop race. As you see him swinging into pit lane speed limiter on, we see the rain light flashing, and he's going to come into one of these boxes. Can't quite remember which one. I think it's about this one. Here we go. Stops on the marks. Pit crew is very happy with him. They're getting the tyres changed and fuel going in, as we see Philip Boak. So is he going to get the undercut?
And this will be the most important question, is where he comes out. What was the in-lap for Phil Boak? The lap time last time around was a 16.9. And Courier is on the move.
He's moving. And he's just about to leave pit lane now, and he's going through the on-ramp. The on-ramp, so
On-ramp,
to speak.
it's not a freeway.
Well, it's like the freeway, isn't it? We're all going as hard as we can.
Well, in actual fact, he's increased his margin, I think, as well, and indeed he has. That's actually a very, very nice hold for Courier. The lap time that time around from Phil Boak was a 1 minute .246, and Courier was stationary for about the same length of time, but he's come out with... I'm just waiting for the timing screens to get themselves together at the next sector split, but he's probably gained a couple extra car lengths on Phil Boak. I actually think his pit lane entry was very, very nice, very, very aggressive, but he got it stopped beautifully on the marks and got it stopped beautifully for the line as well. And the traffic there gets out of the way going into the pit lane as well. I think that may very well have been the Saudi, the Alitalia car of...
Saudi.
I was going to say the Saudi Alitalia car, because the other driver of that car is Mike Coulston, aka Mike the Saudi Camel, hence why I said Saudi, because he was racing in TCC last night.
We've got a lot of airlines getting into the business of motor racing, obviously. We remember Alan Jones, our 1980 Formula One world champion. He had a Saudi sponsor, Williams.
He sure did. Well, Boak, having an extra lap to get his tyres and that up to temperature, has now started to hone in like a precise Holden missile on the back of the ZB Commodore, driven by JP Courier, because that margin has shrunk very, very quickly in the last 60 seconds. So the undercut now starting to pay dividends, so not an initial gain from coming in first, but having that little bit of tyre temperature a little bit earlier is now potentially going to pay off here. He's not close enough for a stab into turn number 1. He needed to get a much, much better run out of turn 7 for that.
The most important thing is JP Courier has track position. So if Phil Boak, if he has all the grip in the world and he can't get past, then it's useless, isn't it? So JP Courier is on the racing line and he's entitled to take that racing line. It's up to Phil Boak to get around him. Let's see if he can do it. He's not quite close enough yet. So, like I said, the most important thing, he's got the track position, and that was the whole point of the undercut, which means, he's managed to keep him behind for the first couple of laps or so, and now that the tyres are coming up, it might actually help him a bit more.
There's a couple of other battles down the field at the moment that I want to get to as well, but I just want to see what happens here at turn 7 and also at turn 1. This will be interesting. Boat got a good run out of the final corner. This is close.
He's running him over to the other side of the circuit. Is he going to get up? He's going to have to go around the outside if he's going to try and make it. He's going to try and do the crisscross, the over and under. Not quite. There was a bit of a ZB Commodore in the way, so couldn't quite get there in the end as the gap stabilises to about 2 car lengths in favour of JP.
Well, let's leave that for a moment. Let's have a look at some of the other battles going on, because this is the battle for, or it was for 4th and 5th place. And
just caught a lock up there.
Yeah, Foley, I think, must have had a little bit of a moment, because he was a lot closer, as you can see on the timing screen when they went across the start-finish line. He was a lot closer, and now he's dropped right off. So he's just gone and proven me wrong that this was a battle that was going on. It was a battle. It's no longer a battle. The other one that I was noticing was Josh Ben against Brendan Ross, and that was very close as well, but Josh Ben's just again managed to find a little bit of room and has kicked away. So there's a couple of good battles in the field at the moment.
Ben is a pretty handy steerer in real life as well.
He sure is. Putting what is I think that's Cam Rutledge, or putting him a lap down to himself. So obviously Cam had come in and stopped, and this is what tends to happen at Barbagallo Raceway. A number of cars tend to go a lap down until when the pit stop cycles really all shake out.
Just noticing that it was Glenn Miles. He was off the racing line, and Brendan Ross almost went careening into him. He's trying to get the draft, and he's trying to catch up back up to Josh Ben. But Josh Ben, he's driving this car very well at the moment.
Yeah, Josh Ben had a really, really good run on debut at Phillip Island, but if only the pit strategy could have been sorted out, because that was his Achilles heel. He basically came into the pits and didn't know how to change the tyres. So we actually ran into him at Phillip Island about that, because he was out there as a part of his association with that track media, and we quizzed him about it, and we believe he's got it sorted for this race.
That was a fun conversation, actually. It was just like, oh, such good competitiveness and such good speed, but it was the pit strategy. Well, not the pit strategy, it's the hotkeys that let you down.
The
It's all
hotkeys.
about memorizing the hotkeys you've got in the ISI sim. There's so many functions in
Who's
the
that off
ISI
the
sim. We
race?
see someone go off.
That's
That's a Scuderia Italia. That's Walshy.
Yep. Sure is Brian Walsh there. Well, we'll go back to the head of the field and just see. Well, actually, we'll stay here for a second because Foley's caught back up
Look
to
at
Devonish.
this. He's showing the nose. Is he? Oh, he's moving him over a little bit. That's a bit brave.
A little bit of Morse code on the rear bumper from VF Commodore to ZB Commodore.
That could have been a very scary moment because there was a slight bit of overlap, but now there definitely is a lot of overlap. And Devonish is coming in again, so
yeah,
he's getting out of that battle. And let's see if he changes tyres and goes for fuel again.
I think he's going to have to three-stop this now, Devonish. Remember, he came in on about lap 14, so he's been quite. He was really the pioneer in terms of what he could actually do, and he's gone what? So he's gone from lap 14 to lap 37, so 23 laps, where a number of the front runners managed to get close to 30. So big ask to go the remaining, what's it now? He's about the halfway point of this race roughly. So to go the remaining half it's quite a big ask.
Yeah, 100%. I think what he did was maybe short fill in the start of the race, and then that obviously didn't give him a yield to go further, but he did make quite a lot of positions because everyone was sort of ripping each other apart at the front. So maybe it'll come back to him. We're not sure. We'll sort of see it play out. Stranger things have happened on this green earth.
Well, he's fed into what is essentially a bit of a log jam here. He's fed in behind, is that Brennan Ross, I believe, but ahead of Steve Burko. Now, that's not a battle for position. That is just about where those cars are on track. He doesn't really want to be racing anybody. He's not racing anyone for position, but he should have the pace to pull away from Steve Burko here.
So it might be good to follow Brendan Ross as a sort of pilot fish here, because then Brendan Ross is one of the top guys in this field. He's shown over the last few races, but maybe the car is improving all the time. We're not sure. Well, his last lap was a 56.4 and his best was a 55.9, so it's quite a way off his best time. Let's see if Devonish can keep his consistency up, and he might get past Rossi here.
Well, we'll leave that for a moment and see if he can get a little bit closer. Let's go back up to the head of the field with our race leaders, because they are still line astern again. And this is what we like. This is good close racing. The gap hasn't really been more than about 2 seconds the entire race. The fastest lap from Foley, 55.266, and given that he's only shaved about a tenth of a second off of that, so we're sort of on the qualifying pace that we had is sort of about the same race pace that we got roughly. So really there wasn't anything major to be gained during qualifying. No one really set the world on fire. Everybody's sort of doing the same sort of lap times, or ultimately what we saw in qualifying is everybody's race pace.
It's all about a rhythm at this circuit, more so than others, because especially at turn 7, it's very easy to get it all wrong. But you're right. It's a fantastic race and a fantastic battle between these two cars, 888 and 015.
Well, let's go for an onboard lap here with Curie, so we've got some time. So a little bit of trail braking into turn 1. You just want to pick the apex perfectly and pick your opportunity and your time to go up on the gears and on the accelerator through turn 2 at the left-hander, 3 at the right, and then tuck it in on the apex here for turn 4 and just pick up the accelerator, short shift it, up and over the rise at turn 5, use all the concrete exit curb, down into the bowl, braking just before the 100 metre board for what they call cold corner, or turn 6, the bowl, and to get a nice flowing run out of turn 6 here, past the lap car in Glen Miles, and this is what we like to call the roller coaster, up and over the crest and downhill, hard downhill, into the hardest braking zone on the track, braking at the 100 metre board, rolling through the corner and using all the ripple strip and some, and across the line, and that's a lap, and that was a 55.5 for Courier, with his best being a 55.3, as you can see from the timing screen there. So really, really consistently on or thereabouts on the mark, apart from when they're back or bypassing some of the traffic that they interfere with or stopping in the pits. His consistency has been very, very good at the moment, and not only that, the man behind him, Phil Boak's consistency has been very good as well. Foley now moves up into P3. We've just seen a move on the timing screens made there. And we'll see if we can pick up where that was and where he got the move done. It looks like it's out of 7 into 1.
Look at that. He's clearly got the inside running, and he's got a lot of pace. He did that from quite far back, and that's why there's been a mistake. So, is that Hathaway or Billy Douglas along? I can't quite tell. Hathaway.
Yeah.
So Hathaway's made a mistake going in. He's just sort of locked it up, locked the inside front, and it's gone well wide of the ideal line. And Foley, it's coming back to him. We rode him off early, but it's definitely coming back to him now, isn't it?
I was going to say, it's like Celine Dion. It's all coming back to me now.
Got Turmo in the pits. Turmo's making a pit stop.
Yeah, so that'll be his second stop. So number of drivers coming in for their second stop. Turmo probably can get home from here, given that look at the lap count. Well, it's 43 laps that the leaders are on right now, but Turmo's 1 lap down. So if he stays 1 lap down, and the leader's been able to get 30 laps out of a tank of fuel and tyres as well with the way they've been driving, so in theory he should be able to get home from here.
Foley, he's stretched that lap quite quickly. He's stretched that gap quite quickly on Hathaway, which is really impressive. I think maybe the car is starting to come to him now.
Has he been
chasing
sandbagging?
a setup, perhaps?
Maybe he's been
Maybe,
sandbagging.
who knows? Or maybe he's just lost his rhythm. I'm not sure, because rhythm is very important. Oh, look at this. We've got some ripper sectors going.
Yeah.
So that's Foley. He might be doing a fastest lap on this one. Let's see. Let's have a look.
Very close.
They're very close. So he's only...
Fell away from him in the
how
final
much is that?
sector there. That's not
It's
very
about
much at all.
0.24?
Yeah, very close. He was on it for the first 2 sectors.
Oh, he's off the road here. They need to be careful. But Glenn Miles tried his best to get out of the way, but it came at a bad part of the circuit. But he didn't bowl a wide there, Foley, which is good for his cause.
Yeah, got out of the way there, Glenn Miles. The problem is, up through turn 2, 3 and 4, you can go sort of side by side, but we keep saying this, you need a willing participant to be able to do it. And typically, if you haven't got a willing participant, then you're going to go through line of stern. Yellow flag down here again at turn 7. Seems to be a bit of a hot spot with a number of drivers going off the road.
Might be Ricky Slick who went off there, because I saw that at the background of the shot
we've got
when we were seeing Foley.
I believe that's the Brian Walsh car that's off in the weeds. Yeah, it is. And,
again, disastrous run for Brian Walsh.
I think that is a DED dead.
100%.
So that's the end of Brian Walsh, unfortunately. So the 6th retirement, and there's yellow flags still down here at turn number 7, which is it's cleared as soon as you go past the Brian Walsh car, but I think he just needs to retire. So unfortunately for Brian Walsh, who's had a good run in the TCC last night as well, alongside his teammate Glenn Miles. They're in slightly different teams, or different team cars, I should say, for this Super 2 season. And he's actually still in the background of shot there, so he really needs to get going. And if the car's able to drive out, he needs to get out. But if the car's not running, he needs to just retire that car, because he's taking away a passing opportunity down at turn 7.
Yeah, 100%. Brian Walsh, he's 6 laps down, so he just needs to circulate and finish. But if not, if he's gonna do the old QQ or the rage quit, then he might as well just do it now, because no use leaving the car on the track.
Yeah, no, he's still there, so he's still trying to get the car going, but I don't think he quite realises that in fact he's actually gone, so that's good. So he's pulled the pin, the yellow flags are drawn back in, and there's now passing opportunity again at turn number 7. Now, I want to look at something here. Have a look at how big this gap is. This is 7.7 seconds now. This is really stretched out, and for the love of me, I'm trying to work out why. Last time around, they were only separated on lap time by 0.3 of a second, but somewhere along the line, either Boakes had been held up by the traffic, or he's made some sort of a mistake, but he's only just trying to recover that time now. But huge margin now for Courier. This is the biggest it's been.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where Phil Boak has quite gone wrong, or if it's just, slowly getting away from him. But it's not common for him to make those sort of mistakes. So maybe lap traffic possibly played a role in this, but sort of a get out of jail free card for JP Courier at the moment, just before he's about to make his second pit stop. He might be coming in this lap. Let's have a look.
I don't think he probably is. I think what's happened here is that Automobilista does this. If you've forgotten to take away what the default pit strategy is, you can actually decide and pre-program your stops. And if you fail to take them away, if you want to take manual control, then it will come up telling you, we want you to come into pit. But we know for a fact that JP Courier came in at the end of lap 31, so to come in after 17 laps, probably not the best thing to do. You probably wait to see what Phil Boak does and just cover him off like he did before.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's always a familiarity game with Automobilista, and I'm just here as a commentator, and I don't play it enough. So clearly, I've got to go and get myself a new wheel and pedal set that probably works a little bit better. Oh, he's set a good sector at the moment, so see the old flames coming out of the first position car on the live races.
Yeah, usually that means he's on a personal best or he's on for a decent flying lap. Well, his first sector was definitely a light, but he's lost it in the second sector. JP's had probably his first sector has been the best sector because we've seen he's had a lot more mid-corner speed, especially through turn number 4, and then the change direction up onto 5. But again, doing lap times consistently in the 55.5s, 55.6, he's really in a league of his own. I mean, he's really got that momentum and that rhythm that you were talking about, this being a rhythm circuit.
I'm very impressed by his pace. It's really good, and he's stretching the gap on Phil Boak. He's just stretched that out by about 0.2 of a second, and each lap that counts, he's just stretching it out gradually on Phil Boak.
That's it. And most of the race gaps have started to sort of really settle down now as we then really wait for the next series of pit stops. But let's go through the field. We're coming up to 49 laps completed, so it'll be 50. The 50th lap will be started when JP comes around this time around. So at the moment he is our race leader, and comfortably at that, and ever stretching the race lead away from Phil Boak, who won the last race at the feature race at Phillip Island with a late mistake from Foley going off the road at what was Southern Loop. Speaking of Foley, he's P3, so PBF's still on the podium, so it's an all-Holden podium at the moment. Mitchell Hathaway, who had one of the best starts of the race. He is in P4, down 2 places from where he started. He was on the front row, don't forget. Dwayne Davies, having a good run. He started up in P3, down to P5 as some of the other drivers have started to come forward. Will Devonish has moved up 4 spots, P6 on the road at the moment, first of the CRE Motorsport cars, followed by Josh Ben, who's just making his stop for his second stop now. Brendan Ross will now take over what is P7, which will put Josh Ben down into P8. Ricky Slick is registered as P9. He's actually about to be he's already been put a lap down by the race leader. And Billy Douglas Salonga rounding out your top 10, followed by Termo in P11. Good solid run from him. He's already stopped twice. Steve Burko, who was a late entry into the service, some technical gremlins cutting his practice time short in the Top Gear Racing Starbucks Falcon. Looks much better without the BMW grille on it, doesn't it?
Absolutely agree. It looks like a real Falcon, doesn't it?
Sure does. Cam Rutledge, the second of the CRE Motorsport cars, is 13th, and the last of the classified runners is Glenn Miles. He is 6 laps down to the race leader, but most importantly, still circulating. Those that we've lost from the race so far: Brian Walsh, Jinx, Cracker, Rhodey, Zach and Brownie. And Ricky Slick is in for his second stop.
Ricky Slick in for some slicks.
He certainly is. Now Ricky Slick will be making a guest appearance in the GT3 World Challenge race this coming weekend, which is at the Circuit of the Americas. He's actually going to be testing some cars for what would be the next GT3 season coming up, so Ricky will not be eligible for any points. But keep an eye out for some of those cars if you're going to be tuning into the broadcast on Sunday night. Well, the next question that we really need to start thinking about, Hans, is when is our race leader going to come in? Because look at the gap. The gap's now out to 10.1 seconds, and he's consistently doing quicker lap times. Well, the last time around to the tune of 0.4 of a second quicker. He's dropped into the 56.0 bracket. Phil Boak doing 56.4s. So the tyres are probably starting to go off a little bit here, but we know he'll probably get... He could come in right now and get home from here, but I think he's probably going to get to the full extent of the fuel and then just come in, grab what he needs, and gone.
It's probably a good way to do it. I think now that he's stretching a gap, I think he just needs to go for that, stretching the gap as much as he can. We're just taking a break to clear our throats a little bit. But he's trying to stretch that gap, and he's doing it pretty successfully at the moment. So I would keep blazing on if I were him, and I would go till when the tank is empty, and then if there is less than a full tank to be put in the last stop, I would just put what you need and off and running again. And there's a yellow flag down at Cold Corner, so let's see who's off the road.
There's somebody off the road down there. It's the 10th place man, and that is Billy Dougal-Salonga, judging by our screens, and he's actually just been passed, and yes, he has. So we'll pick up a replay to see what happened to BDS, because it can be a tricky corner to get right. Oh, it was a brake lock-up. A brake lock-up into the corner. Thankfully kept it out of the wall, only rotated into a 90-degree spin, but did the right thing, waited for the traffic to go past before rejoining the circuit, but that does put Steve Burko inside the top 10. Great job, Steve Burko, for his persistence pays off.
And Steve Burko, he's still using the H-pattern gearbox.
Yeah, we did hear that. He does prefer to use the H-pattern gearbox. Actually blew an engine as a result of using the H-pattern gearbox of the previous round. I think he was trying to go from 4th to 5th, and he went back to 3rd, and that was the end of that.
Man wouldn't have been happy with him. He would have hit him over the head with a busted bit. All the valve springs uncoil, and it's no fun. Well, that's in real life anyway. But in the game, you just get a bang and you're over and out. But we've got a couple of guys on good sectors at the moment. So we've got JP Courier on a good sector, and Dwayne Davies as well. So Dwayne Davies, he might be on his way to a PB this lap.
Yeah, it looks like he might be on his way to a PB if he can keep going in this fashion. Normally it's about now, and it shuts off. So most people seem to be seeing their best sectors.
There's a pass. Oh, that could have been disastrous. But Ricky Slick gave him enough room.
Great avoiding action by, that was Phil Boak behind as well. And
it was like Shane Van Gisbergen did the supercar race on the weekend. That was pretty good.
And he's going to get out of the way for his teammate here, who's being pursued by one of the FCR cars. That would be Hathaway. But being pursued by, I think that was Brendan Ross. That's not for battle for position, but a couple of awkward moments for Billy Dougal-Salonga. He was inside the top 10, now he's fallen all the way back through to 13th. Tried to put a pass on
Foley's just made a pit stop.
All right, Foley in the lane, so that'll be for his second stop.
He's just got out, so let's see what the run is like from here. Is he going to go all the way to the end on this one, or is he too far away from the end? We're not sure.
No, he's lap 55 with 18 laps to go. I think this is pretty much a safe bet that he's going to the end from here. He stopped twice. Hathaway yet to stop for the second time. In actual fact, here he comes. So
now, is the undercut going to be a factor here, because we've got Phil Boak and JP Courier. So JP Courier is 35 seconds off the road, and Foley. Let's see. I mean, the transit time is all important around every circuit when we've got pit stops to make.
Should be a comfortable hold here, I think. Yeah, the HDS car has just been dropped off the jacks now and is on the move, and Foley should retain third quite easily, I would suspect, as we look back to Hathaway. Yeah, that's a big gap. So that was really never in question. It's a matter of whether Hathaway's actually dropped behind Will Devonish as well. So remember, Devonish did stop very early for that second stop of his, so he's got a long way to go. The question will be, can he hold on to what is currently 4th place? But I called it before. I think he might have to stop again. I think he's probably too far away from that second stop. I think he's too far away to make it home.
Yeah, 100%. I reckon what is the more pressing question to be asked is Hathaway going to... Sorry, not Hathaway. Is Foley going to be able to undercut Phil Boak and JP Courier? We're not sure yet. I mean, like I said, 35 seconds up the road is JP Courier, and a little bit less for Phil Boak. So it might bring him back into the race eventually, but laps running out as we see Devonish coming in, so he's going to make his stop.
Well, my prediction was right. 3 stops is what was required for Will Devonish, so that first stop on lap 14 really has set the tone for his race, and realising that he needs a bit more juice and a bit more tyre to get home, and he's surrendering what was 4th place to Hathaway.
I think he's got a lap down now. So JB Courier has lapped him.
Keeping in mind Courier is yet to stop as well for his second time. But Devonish will feed out. In actual fact, he'll be right in the thick of this battle with Dwayne Davies as well. I think Davies is going to round him up here. Will be very close to rounding him up. He's certainly not going to let him have it easy. And he just comes out ahead of the Ford Falcon, does Will Devonish. So that's a battle for position. And Josh Ben's a little bit further back from this battle at the moment. In actual fact, he's got his... actually, no, he hasn't got his hands full. He's got his hands full with a lap car. But Devonish might... Foley, quickest lap of the race for Foley, just snips a little bit off, and a PB, the pink, a purple sector in Sector 2 that time around.
Yeah, so new fastest lap of the race, 55.238. That's only just a little bit faster, very teeny tiny margin. Steve's sort of wincing at me, and he's got the little index finger and his thumb out. It was probably, I don't know, half a centimetre he was showing. So
DW.
Every little bit counts. He wants that fastest lap.
Yeah, DW would say it was a 16th of an inch, but literally it's that close. That's how much it is.
16th of an inch.
If you haven't seen that, the reference to that finish, they were talking about a finish. I think it was at Talladega in the probably about 6 or so or 7 years ago, where I think it was Jimmy Johnson won the race by 0.02 of a second, and the original call was, I think he got him by an inch, but when they found the time out, it was like, oh, okay, hang on, no, that's a 16th of an inch.
A 16th of an inch, yeah. Actually, speaking of best NASCAR finishes, Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven at I think it's Darlington, is it?
No, it wasn't Darlington.
No,
it was it was either Bristol or it was the other or Martinsville.
I don't know, one of them. One of those oval tracks.
I remember which one. I remember it was one of those tracks. Now, Curio's got a 33.8 second advantage, which means he pretty much has a pit stop in his pocket. Phil Boak definitely would have come in by now, and in fact he has. He's actually slipped behind Foley. Now, I think I'm pretty sure Foley has stopped as well. So, obviously something's happened to Phil Boak, and he's now dropped back into P3.
Possibly. I think he's stopped again. So that last lap around for Phil Boak was 1 minute 13. So I think potentially he's stopped again. We've got we're just looking at the live stream. We've got Rob C. Good commentary, boys, from Stephen and I. We thank you very much, and we appreciate your kind comments.
Yep.
And we're glad that you're watching and enjoying the telecast.
Yeah, that'll be Rob Crusdale, or Oz Rob. Ran last night in the TCC and the Volkswagen, the JP Simshed 555 Volkswagen, and runs in GT World 3 World Challenge as well in the 555, the BMW E89. Lap 61 for Courier. Now this gap is starting to slowly erode. We just saw it drop from 33 odd seconds to 32 seconds, so the tyres on Courier's Commodore will be crying a little bit here. The matter of the case is, when is he going to stop? What was his lap time last time around? It's 56.1, so despite the fact that the tyres are probably crying poor, he's definitely got some pace. Now, he's not on the racing line this time around. I suspect he will be in.
Here we go. He's coming in. Is he coming in? Yes, he is. So he needs fresh boots on. He's 32 seconds up on Brenton Foley. Let's see if Brenton Foley will get the undercut. Might be a little bit too far, depending on how fast the JP Simshed crew is on changing tyres. As we see now, up on the jack, stops on his marks, perfect. So the JP Simshed guys, they've been doing really well. They've been practicing their pit stops, which is very important.
The most important thing too is it'll be a short fill as well. He won't need as much fuel to get home from here, so fuel is traditionally the limiting factor when it comes to pit stops in AMS. But nonetheless, Foley is on his way down to turn number 7.
And JP Courier is on his way down, so he's definitely going to be ahead of Foley. And what a tactical masterstroke from the JP Simshed entry number 888. But incidentally, Phil Boak, he's gone and taken the fastest lap time. That's 55.11.
And this is an inter-team battle here as well. This is a resumption of what happened at Phillip Island, with Boak putting the pressure on Foley for a little bit, Foley making a mistake and Boak slipping past and taking the win. Well, at the moment, this is for the Mod Pack. Oh, big moment!
He's kept it off the fence. Look at that. Oh, masterful driving there from Brenton Foley.
I don't understand how
we've got to have
that.
a look at the replay, Steve. We've got to have a look and we've got to analyse it slowly. So here we go.
Hang on. Actually, we're picking it up now. We're picking up the onboard footage now. Let's have a look.
Oh, bye-bye. He's over and out. He's going, what's that? That's a 180, a 360. And plug a gear and off you go. So I think what happened is that he oversteered and then he tried to catch it, overcorrected, and he just went off onto the grass, and it's all, no matter how hard you push the brake pedal there, it doesn't really do anything.
that has got to be probably one of the best saves I think we've seen in AMS Oz driving for the entire duration that the group has been in the thing. Not only to to grab to realise the car was oversteering, try to grab it, but on the grass, but to keep it out of the wall. And he's lucky that that was grass, because if that was a sand trap, I think the car was pretty much going to come to a dead stop, as we've seen the sand trap do here for a number of drivers that have gone off at turn 7, for example. But what a save. Probably the best save, as I said, that I've seen since AMS Oz started.
Got to make a highlights reel. We're seeing such good driving at the moment. This is fantastic.
I think we're going to have to. That might make the new intro video when we get around to producing the new intro video, because that was absolutely stunning. But unfortunately for Foley, it's taken him out of what was the battle for second place, and he's only got, about 9 more laps now after this one to the checkered flag. So you're going to have a bit of an ask to get onto the back of his teammate Phil Boak. He's at least safe from Mitchell Hathaway for the moment, so if he just keeps circulating, he will pick up some more points. He will lose a bit of points in terms of the championship to his teammate, who's currently on top, but he's probably not going to be under any real direct threat from anybody else in the championship. But it's still a long way to go in this championship. And the good news is we haven't had any more drivers retire from this race since Brian Walsh on lap 37, and everything is pretty much stabilised for the minute. I mean, really the closest battle on track is actually the battle for 5th and 6th, which is Devonish and the returning Dwayne Davies, which has just edged away now to 3 seconds. It was a little bit closer than that the last time we checked. But Devonish, with that third stop and the benefit of fresher tyres as well, has probably been able to get past and make hay while the sun shines, as they say, despite the fact he's had to stop 3 times, which has really probably taken him. He would have been up around Foley and Hathaway, and when Foley went off the road, he may have well found himself in what was either 3rd or 4th place, Devonish, if only the pit strategy was called.
Yeah, you're right there, Steve. I think the good thing about, if we're looking from the positives of having 3 stops, is that did take him out of all the trouble on the circuit. So that's why he's been able to get up from 10th up into 5th at the moment, and he's got his own little space there. I mean, yes, it's the closest battle between him and Dwayne Davies, but they've got plenty of room, and he's just trucking along, just spinning up the old turbo diesel engine.
Turbo diesel?
Oh, well, metaphorical turbo diesel engine.
Metaphorical turbo diesel, okay. We'll go with metaphorically speaking, so that's all good.
So it's just about having a rhythm and just sticking to it, not quite going for the real, purple sectors or anything like that. And, Philip Boak, last lap was shocking, 58.0.
Yeah, what on earth happened there? Well, he was actually tracking with a really good Sector 1, but he's really slipped back into the clutches of his teammate here. Let's actually pick it up, because we thought that Foley was a mile off being able to challenge for what was second place, but that gap has literally halved with that 58.044. For Phil Boak. It's actually come up on our screen as
very quickly.
Yeah, it's come up on our screen as red, so that's actually his fastest or his slowest racing lap. Phil Boak taking out the pit stops. It's a great first sector from Billy Dougal Salonga, had been put down as well. He's dropped right off the pace in P12. Can't go on with it in Sector 2 though. Really, what's the gap coming down to as they circulate to this first sector intermediate just here, and there's a car off the track there. I think that might have been the Turmo Nissan, just off the track there, letting the lap traffic through, which
quite
is good to see.
Matched, actually. So 19.484 for Phil Boak and 19.445 for Foley. So quite evenly matched, but Phil Boak perhaps the long race distance, or not so much the long race distance, but the laps. You're running an enduro and your clothesline, which is always fun, isn't it?
I've never heard of that expression. Running an enduro
running a marathon around your clothesline.
The only thing I've seen going around a clothesline is a lawnmower on a TV ad on a bit of rope.
Victor Lawnmower ad?
I think so.
Yeah, what a classic that was. But we're not here to critique the advertising of lawnmower companies. We're here to critique the driving of everyone here and see that everyone's doing well, and we got to plug all their sponsors as well.
We sure do. Well, it's not over and done with yet. but this race leader here has 5 more laps remaining coming down to turn 7 now to complete lap 68 this time around. He's really driven a flawless race. He seized control of the race very, very early in the piece, and he's pretty much led every single lap since. Had a couple of times where he swapped with Phil Boak at the very beginning of the race, and once he managed to find his rhythm and get himself out front, very, very smooth, very, very consistent, and class of the field all night. Made the right strategy calls on pit road as well, and currently has a 9-second advantage.
Bucket loads of car speed on board the 888 car, which is fantastic to see. JP Courier, he's had a bit of a rough run lately, but it's good to see him up there once again. Just to note, before the race is out, we've got Tristo. He says, great broadcast tonight, guys. So from Steve and I again, thank you very much. We're glad to see that our viewers are enjoying it. But JP Courier, he's really enjoying being up front, and he's keeping to his rhythm, which is really impressive. He's never really fallen off that rhythm. We've seen, and I think it's about minimising your mistakes, and we've seen a couple of mistakes from Phil Boat, we've seen a couple of mistakes from Foley, Hathaway. All these blokes have all these drivers, they've sort of taken themselves out of it with mistakes creeping in here and there, but JP Courier has been never headed throughout this whole event so far. He's on his 70th lap, and he's just rounding turn 4 now, up in turn 5, short shift into 4th gear, and then run it up to the rev limiter on the concrete berm now up to 5th, and then back down 2 cogs into 3rd gear into cold corner, and waiting, no throttle, no brake, and then bringing up the throttle, 100% progressive input, and then the roller coaster ride.
And what a roller coaster ride it has been for JP Courier in the Super 2 series so far. Was the cause, if you remember correctly, Hans, the cause of the yellow flag at the Adelaide round, right off the start line, did not get going. As I said at Phillip Island, his car was like a wooden car with a wooden engine and wooden wheels because it wouldn't go. So he was the cause of that safety car at the very beginning of the Adelaide round. So that was the start of his rough trot, and he's had a few incidents where he hasn't seen the checkered flag. Various reasons for that, and this is really, I guess, what he needed. We've seen he's a great iRacer, very successful iRacing group with the JP Sim Shed, and about to get his first win, with fingers crossed, with just over 2 laps to go in Automobilista Australia. And good to see that we get a different winner on the podium. Shakes the order of the race up a little bit, and he's got 2 more laps, and 300 championship points will be his.
See, because I find that when you come from another sim, it's quite a while before you acclimatise to the new sim that you're playing. So, look at this. So Dwayne Davies and Josh Ben, they're having a bit of a battle.
Yeah, we'll just quickly hone in on that battle now. Where's Josh Ben? So
Josh Ben, he sort of disappeared off the back, I guess. So
yeah, we saw on the timing screens it was very close, and then all of a sudden when we cut to them, they're miles apart.
We got excited, and we thought, oh, here we go, here's a battle. But no, Josh Ben, he's gone and binned that one.
We'll go back to our race leader. We keep looking on the timing screens and on live races, and we keep looking, going, oh yeah, that's a really good battle. And by the time we get there, they're split apart, so it really doesn't eventuate. Well, what we will do is give this man his glory, because he's got 1 more lap to go. He's got a little bit of lap traffic ahead. Who's that he's coming up to at the minute? It's the 7th place car of Josh Ben, actually, so not that far off putting Josh Ben a lap down. Still doing nice consistent times in the 55s. Actual fact has lowered his PB at some point as well, not by very much, but PB of a 55.3 is very, very good compared to the race fastest lap of a 55.118 from Phil Boak. So only 0.2 of a second difference. I mean, that's the kind of circuit that this is. You're not going to really gain leaps and bounds, but consistency is key. We keep saying it. You've got to keep your car on the road. You've got to keep doing the consistent lap times. The strategy plays have got to be right, and he's ticked every single box tonight. He's got 2 more corners to go, and here he comes down to Cold Corner. I think he's past Cold Corner. He's coming out of Cold Corner and over the rise down into turn 7. He's decided just to lay off the back of Josh Ben for the moment. Take a bow. JP Courier, 888, JP Simshed, 300 magnificent championship points and your first race win in AMS Oz. Not only in AMS Oz Super 2, but in AMS Oz in general. Great job.
Well done to JB Courier. That was a fantastic race, and just watching him pump out those lap times in the 53s was very, very impressive. And he just buttoned it off at the end. Didn't want to make a mistake, and he grabs his first victory. Now we see Phil Boak and Brenton Foley, then Mitchell Hathaway in fourth, and then we're just waiting for our fifth place man, Will Devenish. He's coming to get his fifth place into turn 7 now, back 3 cogs into third gear, and then up for the final time, fourth gear, fifth gear across the line, and fifth place for Will Devenish. Very solid effort. Dwayne Davies in his return from his absence. It's good to see the number 55 Peugeot car up there once again, and the PBF Pro-Am of Josh Ben. No such strategy dramas tonight, which is fantastic to see.
And he was the last of the men on the lead lap as well. So good result for Josh Ben. Running at your top 10. Brendan Ross, he was 1 lap down on the leader at the end of the race, just coming across the line now. And then Ricky Slick inside the 10. Turmo inside the top 10. That's most unusual. Now, we have heard rumours about Foley and Boak working out who can do the quickest lap around the circuit backwards, and maybe Turmo's trying to give them a run for their money here, I think.
Yeah, well, the visibility is definitely not that good out the back of these cars. So
this will be. I was going to say.
Oh, look at this!
Beautiful J-turn.
Beautiful. Oh, there's got to be championship points for that.
Yep. I think there's got to be a point for style points. This is not drifting, but we should have a. I guess what they call, they have like the
flamboyant driving.
Flamboyant driving is probably a right word. At the end of season presentation, have a first place, second place, third place, most flamboyant driving exhibition, best burnout, best accident, most unusual moment, and all that sort of stuff. I think we're going to might have a bit of fun with that towards the end of this race. I think. Well, we'll take a moment and we'll just say, well, wow, we've seen a really, really good race and a really, really good victory to JP Courier. And we're just going to try and see if we can get some of these guys in for some interviews, but we're waiting to see what's going on, but no one is forthcoming at the moment.
They're all rushing in now. We all thought that it was after an hour and 10 minutes of driving, they're all very tired, but they've all just jumped in at the right moment. So I don't know whose voice is better. Steve, you feeling a post-race interview, or are you going to make me draw the short straw again?
Well, you can draw the
I
short
don't mind doing it.
Well, I think you can draw the short straw here, and we've only got our second and third place men in here, so we might start with our second place man, I think, and let's have a chat to him about his battle with the man up front who won this race.
Just before we get that underway, we should actually give JP a bit of a map to get to the podium area. So, I mean, he's not familiar with it is he here yet? No, that's Hathaway. Okay,
no,
so let's have a chat to our second place man, and that is Brenton Foley. Is he second place? I can't even remember.
No.
No,
I think you're getting a bit confused here.
No, I'm getting a bit confused. I thought he managed to pass him in the end. So let's just go from third place. Brenton Foley. How are you, mate? Yeah, how are you feeling after 1 hour and 10 minutes of one of the most entertaining races we've seen?
A bit sore. I've had a sore back all week. From lap 40 onwards, it was pretty much painful, but well worth it. I was a bit disappointed. I was kind of lagging at the start of the race in the first kind of 10 to 15 laps, and lost a few spots and didn't really want to throw the car up the inside, knowing that I might have had a little bit of lag and cause other people to spear off. So I kind of sat back for a little bit, and it cost me a lot of time. But overall, still fun. I had a lot of good battles, and third place, I really can't complain.
No, well done. Getting to the front eventually in the championship battle, but was the car a little bit too twitchy, or was that just a result of the lag?
That in the late race or
early in the race?
That's kind of just how I drive it. I murder the tyres a little bit in these cars, but no, I kind of like it a little bit twitchy. I can throw it into corners a little bit better, but yeah.
And how about the 360 up at on the run into Cold Corner between turn 5 and 6? How was that?
You got that one?
Yes, we
We
did.
got it.
Just
We got it. Oh,
just
that was
just touch
fantastic.
the inside curb, trying to chase down for the lead. I was making time on JP. I kind of assumed he'd be in cruise mode because he definitely had the pace tonight. His drive was really impressive. But yeah, I was making up some time and I was getting very, very, very close to getting the fastest lap. I think I ended up being like 500ths off Bill's time and pushed the limits a little bit too far. Thankfully, kept it off the wall and kept going.
Well, that was very impressive driving. Not the kind of driving we want to see, but maybe we should award a point for most flamboyant driving. Well done, Brenton.
Thank you.
Second place, if I get it correctly this time, is Phil Boak. So Phil Boak running 0-on-5 in the Craig Lowndes inspired livery. How was your race? And tell us what unfolded for you.
Hey boys, yeah, good race. I think it was the first 40 laps was great fun. The battle between me and JP was pretty good. It was close. He was a little bit quicker, and then I don't know, it felt like his tires went away. He come back to me, had a battle, and I nearly got back past him. And I could see sort for a bit, and then I had that bloody spin, which just ruined everything. Pretty well, gifted him a nice gap to just cruise home. But bloody good fun up to that point. Bloody good fun. And then from then, I just sort of lost the car a bit.
Yeah, we noticed that you dropped off the timing monitor a little bit. Sorry, my sickness is making it very hard to pronounce my words. But I mean, we were sort of thinking, oh, maybe you're not didn't make a mistake. Maybe it was just a dodgy pit stop or something. But it turned out it was a mistake. So that's unfortunate. But otherwise, good performance. I mean, it was a bit like an accordion at the front. You were catching him and you were letting him go, and the bit of strengths and weaknesses in different parts of the circuit.
Yeah, definitely. He's really good in the first sector. But I managed to bridge that difference later in the race. It was too late by that point. But he was really good in the first sector. I seemed to have him sort of covered in the middle and third. But, cold corner, you got to get the run right. And it's so easy to just drift it sideways out of there if you're a little bit too keen. So, no, it was really good. Really, really good.
Well, that's good to hear that you're happy afterwards. So, with second place and a lot of championship points for your championship battle, well done, Phil Boak, on a well-deserved second place.
Thank you.
Well, now attention turns to the man who's taken not only first place in this race, first place for the very first time in AMS Oz and AMS Oz Super 2. JP Courier, I hope I'm pronouncing your surname right, mate, first and foremost. But you really seized control of that race early on. The gap ebbed and flowed for a little bit to Boak, but that final phase of the race you pulled away and a comfortable win in the end, and job well done.
Yeah, thanks very much. And yeah, you got the name spot on, so work there. No, I really enjoyed that race. That was heaps of fun. Phil had me sweating lap after lap, and I did breathe a sigh of relief when I looked at my relative and he'd fallen back a little bit. But I just tried to keep the car as straight as I could, not hurt the tyres, and just try to keep doing consistent laps.
Yeah, consistency was something that we picked up on quite a number of times during the race. I mean, your best lap was a 55.3. You're consistently in that mid to high 55s, and you kept, your pace looked really, really good. You're driving very, very smoothly. What impressed me the most was your mid-corner speed through turn 4 before the change of direction for turn 5. You were really, really gaining a lot of your time in sector 1 through that turn 4, much, much quicker than Phil in the early stand of the race, and probably that's what sets you up for the passing move to let you get past him and really take control and command of the race.
Yeah, look, the car felt really good, and especially through turn 4. I just had a lot of confidence going through there, and I was able to hold the car and hold it in tight going through and get a great run coming out the other end. So, no, I was absolutely stoked with tonight's result.
Yeah, as I imagine you would be. Have a bit of a difficult start to the Super 2 season. Getting off the line in Adelaide wasn't the best thing for you. Brought out the safety car early, and you've had a couple of issues throughout the first few races. But you found your groove and you found your rhythm, and hopefully this continues for you.
Yeah, thanks very much. No, it's been a steep learning curve, and basically all of those issues that I've had have just been mistakes. Like not being able to set up my pit stops properly and things of that nature. But I've been really lucky, and guys have helped me through and shown me what I've needed to do. And tonight, just everything fell into place. I was able to get my pit stops right. I was able to get my pit limiter working, which was awesome. Yeah, so no, I'm really happy with tonight, and I'm really happy with how the Jinx shift to ZB went for us.
Yeah, certainly was a very, very masterful night for you. And 300 championship points and a first race win to boot. Congratulations, and looking forward to seeing more of you in the next couple of races, which if we look at the calendar here on the broadcast, that's going to be on the 30th of May, which is Winton Motor Raceway. That's a pair of sprint races, that particular round, so not too far away, about another 3 weeks or so away. And we'll be back in the box for that one. And it's actually a pair of sprint races in quick succession too. The next round after that being a pair of sprint races at Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin as well. So a couple of different contrasting circuits, Bahans. We go from Barbagallo to Winton, which is a little bit of everything. There's some straights, there's a bit of technical section in there as well, and sort of same with Hidden Valley as well. There's a couple of slower corners in there with the big long drag strip front straight, and some medium to high speed corners through there as well. So a couple of good circuits on the calendar ahead.
Yeah, Winton is all about balancing the car, and you've got a lot of these second, third, and fourth gear corners. You only get up into fifth gear there. You're not quite in a sixth gear. We get the 3.75, or what used to be the 3.75 diff ratio, when they used to run the live rear axle and the Ford 9-inch crown wheel and pinion differential. But now it's the drop gear set, and I mean, Winton, it's always an action track, and smack bang in the middle of the championship, it's a very important round because sometimes it all starts to fall apart from there. Then Hidden Valley, big long straight, and then you've got the other side of the circuit. It's a very, very slow sort of circuit, but you've got that sort of the chicane left, right, and then you're in fifth gear, and you have to get back down a second, and then you turn right, then the short shoot up to third, back to second, and that's all action up in the hill section, in the amphitheatre section at Hidden Valley, which I'm quite eager to see how some of these drivers handle it when on the first lap. It's going to be quite interesting.
It certainly will, and with the culmination of the race tonight, we're actually a third of the way through the season. It's a 15 round season, and we're through the first 5 rounds. So Winton round 6 on May 30th will be the next phase of the racing. And as we said, a couple of sprint races there. The Nations Action Track, they call it. We're actually going to be up there in person for the Victorian State Series in June at this rate. But we'll see it in Automobilista between now and then. And for the moment, this has been round 5 of the Barbagallo Raceway for the AMSL Super 2. My name's Nether. Been joined by Hans Brunswick. As always, till next time, please drive safely, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.